Hello viewers, Tim Poole here, editor of Gambling Insider, and I'm with Edward Carstairs, partner at GJE. Edward, thanks very much for joining us. We were just at your panel here at IGB Live, a very informative panel. It was about kind of IP, competing in terms of brands. Could you maybe just give us a quick summary for any viewers that weren't there, and your kind of main messages in this area for gaming at the moment?
Yeah, sure. I mean, really this is all about protecting your brand name. You're building a business, you're building a product, you're spending money, time and resources doing it, and you want to protect your investment, you want to protect your IP, and specifically we were talking about protecting your brand name, the trademark behind the business, that consumers go to you ahead of their competitors because they recognize your brand name.
You had a flurry of examples across different industries. The cider one with Aldi, was quite interesting. But I suppose it might be hard to answer. But in general, where do you see the trend going at the moment? Every case is different. But are we seeing that sort of, I guess, copycat challenger brands are being caught out more, or is there still a lot of work to be done to kind of the burden of proof, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a really interesting case. The Thatcher's lemon cider and Aldi's infringing copycat brands. I think what we're seeing over the last 18 months or so, there are more and more cases with decisions that are favourable to the brand owner, to the IP holder. There's a few trademark decisions and a design decision as well in particular, which suggests that actually the scope of protection of your trademarks in particular are maybe broader than the industry would have told you a couple of years ago. It's a really positive, really positive message for brand owners right now.
In gaming and gambling in particular, is it the same kind of universal trend, or are there some differences in this industry versus others?
All the industries are different, of course. There's different clientele, different routes to market, different challenges, different competitors. But fundamentally, the law, the trademark law that underpins it, is the same across every industry. So good practice in one sector translates to good practice in another. There'll be nuances along the way, but this good news of IP decisions being brand owner favourable also apply to the iGaming industry too.
That's interesting, and certainly, I guess, if you look at it objectively, encouraging to hear, because at the end of the day, that's fairer. But there are still some, I guess, high-profile examples, and as you say, every case is individual. So some cases we could be talking about huge organisations with big legal teams, but there's obviously still some high-profile ones where, shall we say, it isn't going necessarily in the favour of the brand owner.
Absolutely, and fundamentally, protecting your IP is a commercial activity. So if you're coming up against a very large party on the other side with, almost bottomless wealth behind them, they can simply outspend you. And there's no guarantee, there's no silver bullet of success. But what you can do is present a very strong case to a business of that nature to say, we've got a registered trademark, we have a reputation, we know you benchmarked your product against ours, you've been riding on our coattails, you've achieved amazing success with very little spend. The only conclusion here is you're taking unfair advantage of our hard-won reputation. We could have some litigation about this, the outcome's uncertain, or maybe there's a deal to be done. So for the brand owner, it's still a strong tool in any kind of negotiation.
That was quite interesting in your presentation in the Thatcher's case, in the sense that they lost originally, but when they appealed and used the reputation. I guess you had some advice in the panel, but if you were to kind of have some key bullet points, similar to, I guess, your final conclusion, but for any iGaming brands in particular who are looking to protect their IP, what would you, I guess, single out as the most important things to do?
I suppose there's a bit of a checklist, really. The first is you want to develop your own brand that's distinctive and different in the market so that you can protect it in the first place. You also want to develop a brand that is sufficiently different to your competitors. You don't want to fall at the first hurdle and be sued for infringement, for example. So develop your own distinctive brand that's different to everyone else and register it as a trademark. And as your business grows and grows, you will naturally be curating your own business success with your metrics. Save that information. That points to your reputation. That points to how many customers are seeing you and using your brands. And then when you see a competitor, track what they're doing. How have they chosen that brand and how have they got there? And this can be a body of evidence that you can present either in correspondence before any action, or indeed if it gets to a court, before a court. And it's going to reflect well on your legal position.
A final question, and this is a bit of anecdotal evidence from me, but watching kind of classic Dragon's Den episodes, you often see young entrepreneurs present a certificate of what they think is a trademark, and then maybe Deborah Meaden or Peter Jones will laugh them out of the room and say, this is just your application letter. I guess my question here is, how much due diligence should you do on the brand side to make sure that you, in concrete kind of letters, have the trademark and have all the protection that you believe you have?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the rug being pulled out from beneath you, isn't it? You think you have something great and then someone whips it away and you're actually left with nothing, and what have you spent the money on? So you need to be very careful. You need to get professional advice. You need to identify your brand that you want to protect, ensure you're free to use it without infringing, and you want to register it through the correct authorities. So in the UK, that would be at the UK IPO, but a trademark attorney can take you through that process and steer you clear of the pitfalls and put you in a strong position.
Well, Edward, thanks very much for your, first of all, the panel, really engaging as a viewer, but thanks for your time and speaking to Gambling Insider as well.
That's a pleasure, Tim. Good to meet you. Thank you.